I know I can't fight 100 men,
Mm-hmm.
but the first 2 motherfuckers that I catch, oh, they gonna be on a t-shirt. After the first 2 hit the dirt, the next wave gonna hesitate. And that's when I turn strategic. No more swinging wild. Now I'm doing math.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Ramen Wukong, and here are the weekly announcements. Let me dip this down. We will switch into a Q&A later. First announcement. Due to a potential complaint, we will try to keep these announcements down to about a 10 or 15 minute time frame going forward. I know that the videos have gone on kind of long, so jumping right into it. Clearly, we haven't made any updates on the main webpage. We will soon, adding the blue sky here as people have asked for it. The Explorer, up, stable, working as expected. I have no complaints other than I hate it. As many of you have known on that saga, if you're following along over on the Discord. In terms of trading, Trade Ogre. That's the one I recommend. Right now they only have Bitoreum/LTC, but they are the ones that I am recommending. They're easy to use. As you can see here, people beyond me have been making trades, which is kind of nice. It's nice to see some forward action on that market. I hope we getting good going forward. Egzeg, I think is what we've determined to call them. They are very slow to respond. They are working with us, but I think they want us to pay them $200 USDT to reopen the Bitoreum to USDT pool. I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure I'm talking to a bot and I'm not getting really clear responses. So for the time being, I can't recommend them because they don't have an open market. They will take your BTRM and then they want like $400,000 to withdraw any BTRM. So at this time, don't use them. That may change in the future. I'm not saying anything bad or whatever about them. Just don't use them for the time being until we get that all sorted out. GitHub Runners. All right, so if anybody's been following along, we are in the 4.0.0.0 branch because that is my way of designating alpha. If it's all zeros, that's alpha software. Once we actually release it, it'll be 4.0.0.1, and then we'll be good to go. We are now able to make Mac software for both macOS 12 and macOS 13, and it looks like it will run on ARM under Rosetta. That was unintentional, which is kind of cool. We will get more on that as we get closer to build time, meaning final release time, sorry. There are working test builds out. I have given a couple to various people who have asked specifically about Windows to try out. I'm not going to be generally making these available to the public yet because obviously this is test in progress software and I really don't want you to brick your system or anything like that. Like the wallet should be fine. It hasn't been tested yet fully and I really don't want to release these out until we can get an environment testing. There are, however, general builds for that, so that's where we are there. I have been working with a couple of people who have come back from summer vacation, which is awesome. See right here we have updates for macOS icons right there last week, because I think that was yesterday, but I think GitHub says last week. So yeah, and the other thing I did want to say, Litecoin for deposits on Trade Ogre, sorry to jump around like a crackhead, they only take 6 confirmations, and they are like us 2-minute blocks, so that's about 12 minutes. I have timed this both times, and it's like clockwork. They are fabulous. So, once again, Trade Ogre, love you guys. Change nothing. That's my, in general, shtick there. Okay, so before we jump into the roadmap, which is going to take up the rest of our 6-minute block here, I do have a tentative release date. It will be 1 week from today. I'm not holding hard and fast to that. It could come sooner, it could come a little bit later, but I've made some pretty incredible breakthroughs on this roadmap, which is what you're looking here, which is the pathway to 4.0 release, and then what's going to happen going forward till we can get a 5.0 candidate. So the tentative release date is a week from today on the 22nd. I will not be available for questions tomorrow. I've got a busy day tomorrow and I've got packages to pick up, and you can shoot me a message on Discord. I probably will get back to you much later in the day, if at all. It'll probably be pushed back to Tuesday. All right, so jumping into the meat and potatoes of this week's announcement. This is a tentative roadmap, and this was based on a discussion I had with somebody who was asking me, well, when is this going to happen? And when is this going to happen? And when is this going to happen? And in an effort to kind of quell a bunch of that all at once, we're just going to break it down like this. The first step for me was to fork Bitoreum, which was really easy. You just hit fork in GitHub and you're good to go there. Then actually took the next step, which took several weeks up to a month because I wasn't doing this full time back then, which was to fix and patch dependencies. This is critical, mostly for Ubuntu 24, for anybody been following along with that. Ubuntu 24 has made significant changes than Ubuntu 20 and even more radically different than Ubuntu 22. Many developers that I know have actually fallen back for their own devices back to an Ubuntu 22 clone. Even if they're using Mint, they will use the comparable Ubuntu 22 variant for that. I am about the only one that I know that went directly into Ubuntu 24, so I've been playing around with this, and it was a little bit easier for me to fix and patch these dependencies, but that's also going to have to be addressed slightly later in this video as well. Okay, there were 6 major bugs that were known in 3.0.2.1, which is the last version released by Marius under the Bitoreum GitHub. I have almost solved all 6 of them. They are wrapping up in development either later today after this broadcast or Tuesday afternoon. And then, of course, I will be running environmental tests, which means I will actually test the software, not just a smokescreen test, but a real working test in Windows, macOS 12, macOS 13, ARM, and Intel. Ubuntu 22, Ubuntu 24, Mint 22.3, which is Ubuntu 24. So these will be real-world tests to make sure that the core software is up and operational. Then, before we can make a release, this basically the way that this reads: if it's green, it's already been done or will be done. If it's yellow, I'm in progress, and if it's red, I haven't done it yet, including the arrows. And that is to address the I need to fork the development fee and to fork the spork fee. This will cause a soft fork in the network, so this has to be done super carefully. And I don't even want to start playing around with this, even in a test net, until I have finished this. So this will be addressed this week. But once this is done, then we have a new release. Okay? And I'm hoping to have all of this done by next Sunday. So that was in address to somebody else's comment. And then this is kind of a follow-up comment that they had. They wanted a mobile or a web wallet, which I know that Marius said he was working on it, but I haven't seen any reference to it. So if he was working on it, it wasn't through GitHub, and I can't do anything about that. So assuming that we have a 4.0 release, this is what needs to happen to go forward. We need to update the dependencies yet again. See, the dependencies that we have here, they were patched. They weren't updated, meaning I'm still using old dependencies. Going forward, that's not really going to be an option for 2 reasons. One, Ubuntu 24 is not playing nice with some of these old dependencies, and patching is going to become harder and harder and harder to the point that I'm just going to have to upgrade to a newer, more stable version of some of them entirely. And that also holds true for Apple Silicon support. And I've had a couple people ask, well, why? Because I use Apple Silicon, okay? And to be fair, the idea is to cast as wide of a net as possible for user base. I know the vast majority of you are Windows and Linux users, and I love you to death. And obviously we were working on those apps specifically for this release. I only stumbled on the fact that it was pretty easy to co-write Apple stuff and get that out, but it will only work tentatively on ARM. On x86 Intel. It kind of works on ARM, but it kind of also may not. I don't really know yet. But then the other big one that I want to implement before 5.0 is IPv6, so that way smart nodes can run on IPv6. If any of you have used Yerbus's software, you know that that is a thing, and I really do like that implementation. Our network currently does not support anything from running other than a full node, I believe, can run on IPv6. But there is an issue sometimes with ports not being intercepted correctly, so you may not be able to ping that node and get any useful data out of it. So that is a big one that has to happen. And then because the dependencies are going to be updated really for Ubuntu 24, I will target dependencies that will also support Apple Silicon, so that way we can just patch it and make a software. From one call, we will able to support x86, Ubuntu 24, Ubuntu 22, Windows 10, Windows 11, Mac OS 12, Mac OS 13, Mac OS 14 we can't because that's the ARM only. So then for ARM, we would be able to support Mac OS 13 and Mac OS 14. 15 hasn't been released yet. Then, after we get to that particular point, we want to restore the HD wallet functionality. And if people who aren't familiar with that, that's the ability to create a wallet with a memetic, as opposed to just saying, yeah, make me a brand new wallet. You'll get I think it's like a 12 or 22 word phrase, and you just type that in and boom, there's your wallet. So that way, if you need to restore a wallet or whatever, you do it with a memetic phrase, not with an actual physical wallet.dat file. That'll become important in 2 more steps, this one right here. At that point in time, I do want to kind of modernize the interface and GUI and color scheme to match more of a color scheme that I've been working with. Right now I'm just keeping the Bitoreum one just because it's easy to use, but it's a bit clunky, chunky, and definitely needs some tender love and care and cleanup. And then moving on to this. So without the HD functionality, I cannot conceptualize an easy way to do this. Right, a mobile wallet can't download or shouldn't download the full blockchain of data. The reason being is I think our full blockchain of data is like 2-something gigs, and most phones are not, most users of phones are not going to be happy sharing that much data. So a web wallet is really going to, or web or mobile wallet is really going to rely on the HD functionality being restored, right? And at that point in time, realistically, if we can get to here, modernizing the interface and GUI, I think that will be the actual release, but I would also like to have this also kind of working in tandem with all of this. And at that point in time, we will have a 5.0 candidate, and at that point in time, I will be more amenable to community input on features going forward, right? You guys have stuck with me thus far, and it's great, and we are super close to getting a new piece of software that will be a lot more stable, a lot more newer operating system friendly, and cross-compiled to work with damn near every platform known to man currently, with the exception of Apple ARM. That will work with a Rosetta filter, so it adds a little bit more overhead, but most of you aren't Mac users anyway, and those that are, I don't think will care that much, right? I'm making an assumption. I don't care that much, and I am a staunch Apple user. I use all 3 operating systems. Okay, so that is our update in a nutshell. I'm 3 minutes over, okay? 3 minutes. Sue me. At this point in time, we're going to switch over and open up for Q&A. Oh, look at that. I love that Q&A splash screen. All right, so now we have come to the point in the video where I need to get the whiskey. All right, the first question that was asked was not really a direct question about the state of the project, but it was more a question about why 430 today. Habiki whiskey. I love it. They don't pay me for it. I had a lot of running around to do. I have a very limited time schedule for my personal life, and there was a bunch of stuff that needed to get done today. Today was my only day to do it. I don't like having these videos this late. As a matter of fact, I do want to have them earlier. We have about 5 of you in the U.S., 5 or 8 of you in the U.S. at various time stamps. But the vast majority of people that are tuning in, even if it's not live, are international, primarily from somewhere in the EU, maybe the UK, maybe Russia, maybe China. I have seen some IPs pop up in India. So the point is that I do want to be far more amenable to our international. So I actually want to do it earlier in the day because I know that's later. Shout out to Logos. I know that you couldn't tune in today because of this matter, because it's super early in the morning for him. And he's like, bro, I just want to go to sleep. Bet. I understand. So what that means for us in America going forward is that I am probably going to start shooting for like a noon to 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time or -7 UTC. That is kind of the time frame that I'm looking at. All right, and the second one that I had that was kind of a big one, I remember, sorry, it's in, somebody was DMing me on Discord about it earlier today. Ah, yes. Will I be removing the development fee? No. That's the short answer. Excuse me. The long answer is currently I don't even control the development fee. Currently it goes to a wallet that Marius had set up. I do want to change that. I do want to reclaim the development fee, and the biggest reason why we're not going to remove it is it will probably cause a hard fork in the network to do it, because that actually is a critical part of the rewards and validation process that would have to be changed. And when you start messing around with that too much, it's either going to cause a soft fork or a hard fork. And removing it outright will likely cause a hard fork that I don't want to deal with. I would much rather ease into a soft fork, which is kind of what I'm working with the spork fee and the development fee as is. I'm sorry, the spork address and the development address. Those are going to be soft forked in. Now, going forward, unlike this project's original person and many other projects, I do actually want to be very transparent about what those fees are for. This project does cost me a little bit of money, mostly in the way of domains, mostly in the way of a couple of VPSs that are running actual legitimate smart nodes, getting that back up and operational. And while they're cheap, they're not a $0 value. Yeah, I do use some Oracle, but I also use some on other networks that I don't want to mention just in case it is a term of service violation. They haven't said anything so far, so knock on wood, we good. But the point is that there are costs. And long term, I do actually want to put together a more semi-permanent development team that isn't just me. Right now, it's basically just me and a couple of friends here and there that are like, yeah, I can shoot you some code, or I can take a look at what you're doing and sort that out. But I would like a more semi-permanent development team on board so we can go forward. But then at the end of every year, say, hey, this is where that development fee is. And then once that development fee address is split into the network and starting to receive fees, I do want it tracked and announced on the blockchain so that way you can see at least where the transactions went, and then match them up to the ledger to say, yeah, no, okay, he did what he said, right? And that's the era of accountability that I think a lot of programs that use a development fee don't do. And like I said, the biggest reason why we're not getting rid of it is to avoid hard fork potential. So let me see here, were there any other bigger questions? I'm looking on YouTube right now, looking over in the Discord server. No. Okay. I think total video time is under 20 minutes today. Unless anybody else has any more questions or concerns going forward. It doesn't look like so. So just a reminder, next Sunday is when I'm looking to release. There's not a hard and fast date, but it is I'm getting damn close to finishing it out. All right, folks, we are going to end it here. Thank you so very much for tuning in as always, and I will see you next Sunday regardless. Have a great and sunny day.